Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with random reviews of books from the Overflow Room Annex. Now, here I am in the regular Overflow Room. The Overflow Room Annex, in case you're curious, is through that door. It's the older section of the basement, actually. And I felt like sort of staying here for now because it's just more comfortable and you can see better. And, the computer isn't going to go wiggling all over the place. And I can just take the books and bring them in here. It's more comfortable, I suppose. But eventually I'll get things set up in there maybe so we can do more stuff in there and I'll go back. We'll see. We've got 3 books here, 3 very interesting books, wonderful books. First, 2 books and a periodical. First, Puccini, His Life and Works by Julian Budin. Julian Budin, or Budden, or I never knew how to pronounce his last name, but he is a remarkably fine scholar of Italian opera. Some of you may know his 3-volume The Operas of Verdi, which is basically the reference for information on the works of Verdi, and it's wonderful. I have it over there. We'll get to it at some point. It's sitting over there. But this was really helpful because Puccini is one of those composers whose biography, serious biography, deserves to be read because he's so popular and everyone loves him and everyone takes him for granted. He's treated sort of as a composer who wrote these, popular, not, very emotional, not very intelligent, pop operas, whatever you want to call them, but not somebody whose life and works deserve really serious treatment. And they do. They do. I don't think there's any more serious question in all of music than why are some things more popular than other things? And how do they achieve and maintain their popularity? Is it just because they have good tunes? Is there some other criterion? What else is going on? Of course, Puccini had the tunes, and he also had gorgeous orchestration, and he was a very slow worker. His output wasn't large. So given the incredible popularity of the works of his that stand out, we're talking about La Bohème, Tosca, Madame Butterfly, Turandot, possibly Johnny Schicchi, maybe Man on Lescaut. You're talking about 5 or 6 pieces. And he's one of the greatest opera composers of all time. That's a fascinating fact, and it really deserves looking into. And Budin is great at that stuff. He really is. So this is a wonderful, wonderful book if you're curious about what makes great music great, and why is it there, and what did he do, and how did this person create these amazing works? Well, I think that's a very interesting question. And it's a very interesting book as a result because it's extraordinarily well researched and beautifully written. Next, here's something in the total opposite direction. Just as fascinating. Widor, A Life Beyond the Toccata by John R. Neer. This is an even bigger book than the Puccini book. And Widor is a composer who is known for the toccata and just about nothing else. And he was a very good composer. He really did. He wrote, his symphonies beyond, with organ, a lot of them are beautiful, wonderful French romantic music. If he had lived anywhere but in France, I think he would have had a lot more attention paid to him. He has all the requisites for great French music. He's got great tunes, terrific craftsmanship, beautiful orchestration, but he's known as an organist, which is a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche. And the creator, one of the creators anyway, of the Organ Symphony, which is really a suite, but he called them symphonies. And they're very, very beautiful and wonderfully written for those Cavaillé call symphonic organs that happened in the second half of the 19th century. And he is another composer who really needs full treatment, and he gets it here. It's a lot of reading. This thing is, golly gee, it's about 600 pages, including the index, 500 in the 80s or something. But it's really, really lovely that somebody took the time and effort to research this very, very enigmatic composer for most people. And you may want to, you may wonder, why should I bother? What difference does it make what he did? Well, listen to some of his orchestral symphonies, listen to some of his concertos. He wrote beautiful, beautiful, beautiful music and gobs of it. And so why shouldn't we give him a little love? I mean, he deserves it. And so this book definitely deserves some attention. And last but not least, sitting in my bookshelf was this book. It's not a book, it's an article. It's 19th Century Music Review, Volume 11, Issue 1, June 2014. Good heavens, was it back then? And it contains several wonderful articles. I mean, you've got, let's see, John Bull, Angelica Catalani, and Middle Class Taste at the 1820s British Music Festival by Charles Edward Maguire, which is very interesting. You've got the role of Beethoven's La Gaieté movement in the creation of his quartet, Opus 127, by Barry Cooper, who's a tremendous Beethoven scholar, and especially with his edition of the Beethoven piano sonatas, which is absolutely splendid. Then we've got Brahms' Ascending Circle, Hölderlin, Schicksalslied, and the Process of Recollection by Nicole Grimes. She's a very interesting Brahms scholar. I actually saw her present some papers on Brahms at one of the symposia that I attended. The Bamboo Organs of 19th Century Shanghai by David Francis Urrows. Well, that's different, isn't it? It also has CD reviews that can't possibly be more interesting than mine. Book reviews, DVD reviews, score reviews. It's a wonderful periodical, 19th Century Music Review. So, and there is one other article in here. Vibrato, the Orchestral Organ, and the Prevailing Aesthetic in 19th Century Symphonic Music by me. Yes, by me. I just had to mention it because, I mean, it really looks like a really nice magazine. And the articles are kind of interesting, and I was so honored to be included amongst them. It's a peer-reviewed academic journal for my piece on vibrato and the orchestral organ, which is, I've talked about this before, it's an essay on how we know that the period instrument people are full of crap. I didn't say it that way in here. I tried to, but the editors wouldn't let me. But how we know that they're full of nonsense when they say that there was no vibrato in 19th century music and it was banished and orchestras didn't play with it. We know it's not true. We have anecdotal evidence that it's not true, but we have musical evidence too. And the reason is because it sort of relates to Widor, which is, I think, why this was next to the Widor book. Because back in the day, and I made a video about this, you can see, about the evidence, some of the evidence that we have, that when Cavaillé created his symphonic organs, the organs meant to imitate the sound of the orchestra in a concert hall, beginning in the 1830s, 1820s and 30s, he created ranks of pipes to imitate the massed strings of the orchestra. And to do that, he endowed them with vibrato, pitch vibrato, which he created by mistuning pipes slightly to one another. And he called them, with very smart commercial sense, Celeste stops. And these Celeste stops were tuned usually a hair sharp. Several ranks of pipes playing the same notes that were a little bit mistuned to one another. It did not create genuine pitch vibrato, which you get. It created acoustic beats, which are a little bit different. But the concept was to make sure that the pitch was not absolutely sine wave pure, which is what these period instrument people claim people wanted to do, as if they knew what a sine wave was or what pure anything was in those days. So we know, and then composers made transcriptions of orchestral works. And, in the romantic string parts, they used these string stops that were mistuned in order to imitate the sound of the orchestra, where all the string players some are using more vibrato than others, but the whole section consists of the average tone of what everybody's doing, and everybody's doing something slightly different with respect to pitch. And that's how we know that the the orchestral sound of the string section included what people recognized and talked about and discussed, realized was vibrato. And the transcriptions of Wagner and other composers of those days show this very, very clearly, because they tell you to use vibrato whenever you have to do something that involves strings. It's really very, very interesting. So that's the subject of this particular essay in that particular book. And there you have it, my friends. Two really interesting books and one periodical. Some interesting stuff to look up if you feel like it. You can read my article, by the way, about vibrato on Classics Today, the website, because there's a section at the top of the homepage. You can find it. It's books and articles by classicstoday.com writers, and there's a link to this particular article so that you could read it yourself if you're curious. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.